Hello, everyone. Welcome to our power strategy series. And here today, we're going to show you our power strategy number 8, which is pivot points. So, pivot points, it's an indicator which is used to determine the overall trend of the market over different time frames. The pivot point itself, it's simply the average of the high, low, and closing prices from the previous trading day. So it's the average of the high price, the low price, and the closing price of a particular candle of the previous day. On the subsequent day, the trading above the pivot point is thought to indicate ongoing bullish sentiments, while trading below the pivot points indicates bearish sentiments. So let's go to our terminal and see in detail how we can actually put pivot points onto our charts and what are their interpretations. So I go to the Trade Tiger. Here I have opened the weekly chart of the Nifty. Here I'm going to draw our pivot points weekly. To do that, you just need to right click, go to the study, click on add study, click on the drop down menu, pivot study. Here you see the calculation method is pivot points, which is okay. And here the time period is daily. So we're gonna put this on weekly and go to the format. Here you see we have this pivot point here, and then we have R1, which is the first resistance level, R2, the second resistance level, R3, the third resistance level. Similarly, below the pivot points, we have S1, which is the first support, S2, which is the second line of support, S3, which is the third line of support. So I'll just increase their thickness so that they become visible. I hit apply and close. So I put a weekly pivot study. So I need to go a little time frame lower than where I have put that study. So I go to the daily chart, which I can select from change interval and select daily. Here you see I have all the pivot points here. The pivot point at 9,636. First resistance at 9,734. The second resistance is at 9,800. So it has crossed its first resistance level. So, and it's above the weekly pivot. So Nifty is bullish in nature as per the pivot points, and the immediate resistance, or you have a target in your mind, which is 9,800. This is the interpretation on the buy side. In similar way, if Nifty have closed below the weekly pivot, which is 9,636, then the first support it can have, it's this S1, which is 9,569, and another support it has 9,472, and the third support is at 9,405. Let's see in some other scripts how it looks. So I open, say, Reliance. In Reliance also, it has closed above the weekly pivot, and the immediate resistance of the Reliance, as it has closed above weekly pivot, so it's bullish in nature. So the next resistance level for the Reliance is at 1,528. So actually you can have a target in your mind. Reliance looks bullish in nature. It can reach up to 1528. Similarly, if it has closed below the weekly pivot somewhere here, then the immediate short target would be 1400 from the support. And if it has broken this support, then the next target would be the second support, which is 1322. Let's see in some other scripts like HDFC. Here you see in HDFC, it's oscillating along the weekly pivot, which is at 1624. So here you do not have a clear-cut direction. So as the closing, if the closing of the HDFC goes above this weekly pivot, then HDFC could be bullish and the immediate target would be 1650. And if it breaks that, the immediate target would be 1691. And on the downside, if it breaks the weekly pivot below, the first support is at 1581, another support at 1556. The third support is at 1514. So friends, basically from this pivot point study, you can actually plan your trade, whether you're gonna bullish in nature or bearish in nature. If the closing price is above the pivot, then you should have a long trade. You should be bullish in nature. And if the pivot point have closed below the pivot points, then you should consider a short trade or the bearish view. Let's see in detail about this pivot points in breaking down manner. Basically, the pivot point analysis is often used in conjunction with calculating the support and resistance level, as we have seen, similar to a trend line analysis. In a pivot point analysis, the first support and the resistance level are calculated by using the width of the trading range between the pivot points and either the high or the low of the previous day, either the high or the low of that previous day price values. The second support, this S2, and the second resistance are actually calculated using the full width between the high and the low price of the previous day. Pivot points are commonly used as an intraday indicator for trading futures, commodities, stocks, and there is a difference with reference to the moving average or the oscillators. They are static. They have a fixed value, like the fixed value here, 1649 and 1581. These values are static in nature. They are not going to change with reference to the price move of the current day. Data from the prior day's trading range is run through a formula. That's how you calculate the pivot points. There is a composition of the pivot points and the two higher points resistance known as R1 and R2, like this, and two lower points, the support S1 and the S2. Each this level, this R1 and R2 and the S1 and S2 are considered pivot points. Some traders actually added additional pivot points to expand the range to include up to 4 additional support or the resistance pivot points, like R3 here, R4, and S3, S4. Pivot points are often factored into algorithms of softwares and high frequency trading programs. Trader actually often they should place their stop order at or near pivot points so that their stop loss won't be hit due to the noise, intraday noise basically. And most of the trading platform, like here in Trade Tiger or in any other trading platform, they provide these indicators or studies that can be placed on any particular chart. So in a nutshell, how you gonna actually interpret the pivot points? Whenever the price is above pivot point P, it's considered to be bullish or the trend is up, and it will find its first resistance at point R1, and then it finds its second resistance at R2. And whenever the price is below pivot point, then the trend is considered to be bearish, and it will find the first support at point S1 and the second support at point S2. A trader or an investor always be equipped with the daily, weekly, and the monthly pivot points to identify short terms, the intermediate terms, and the long-term trends respectively. So my friends, I hope you have got good insight about what pivot points are, how you can actually plot them onto the chart, and accordingly you can trade your direction as a bullish in nature or a bearish in nature. And the successive pivot points you can be followed as your profit targets, whether up or down. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us at www.drrtfa.com. I thank you very much for attending live, those people who have joined us live. And I'm very much looking forward to come with some of our more power strategies, which you're gonna use in your trading arsenal. Thank you very much once again, and see you soon. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.